Good day guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So what we'll be talking about today is how to create forms in HTML and the semantics in HTML. So and today we'll be creating forms and I'll show you how to create a form, how to use the input tag, the text area tag, and the button, and and I'll make you understand how the submission and the validation processes in HTML. So let's dive into the work of the day. So these are our last work, so I'll just let me refresh my page. So we are using a blank page. I've commented out the previous works. So there's a tag in HTML called form. For now, we will not be using the action attribute, since we are not doing anything with the backend yet. So we'll just be using the tag itself, form. And under the form, the way a form looks like is that when you're creating a form, you have to let the user know what each text area or text field is all about. So you're creating a form, you have to have the name, the password, or maybe so you are creating a user account, you have to have the username, password, first name, last name, age, and the rest. So there's a tag in HTML called label. It helps the user to label every text input. I don't think so. So this is it. You say label. So I'm using VS Code actually, so it fills everything for me once I click on enter. So just name the label. I'll name it first name. That is F name, the short form. So this is what the programmer will be seeing. So what the user will be seeing is first name. This is what the user will be seeing. This is what will be displayed to the user. So when you click on enter, and okay, now let's create an input. Let's use the input tag. So when you say input, that is, you are giving the user a space to input something, that is, you want to collect something from the user, maybe the username, the password. So for here now we are collecting the first name from the user. So here the type means that the type here you are saying is that what the user is about to, what is required from the user should be a text. That's why we are giving it a text. So you understand? So what we are requesting from the user is a text. So let's save this and refresh our browser. You can see first name, but we don't want it to be like this. This looks somehow, so let's just input a break line. So when we put a break line, it will bring down this text box. This text box will be under the first name. Okay, now how to use a break line? BR. It does not need, you don't need to input a closing tag. So when you save and you refresh your page, you can see first name, a break line. So to make it more user friendly, just input a colon, first name, a break tag. Okay, like we did in our first class. Let's make the text, let's make it a bold text. So what are we going to do? We are just going to input a strong tag. I told you what a strong tag works, how a strong tag works. So when you save, you refresh, you can see the first name is bold. So now it allows the user to input anything the user wants to input. So when you need like 2, 3 or more text box, what you do is just, let's copy this, Ctrl C, and paste it beneath. So here you call it what? You just say last name, and here you just change it to L name. When you save, you can see when you refresh, it brings last name. But what happens? You can see it's joining the last name with the first name. This last name is supposed to be under, then followed by the first name. So what we're going to do is just input a break tag here also, save, then refresh. You can see. So when you want the distance from here, when you feel like maybe it's too closer, input 2 break tags. When you input 2 break tags, it gives more space. You can see that. So this is how to create a form in HTML. And let's say we want to collect let me put my break tag, so we won't have the issue of break tag, break tag, break tag. So dr and dr, let me close it. So let me input another space for the user to input, let's say their surname. Then let's call this surname, right? Then let's put this as s name. So let me save this. So what happens here when you refresh? Okay, you can see. So what next, what we are going to do now is that, okay, now we have created a form, but the form is incomplete because a form without a submit button, I don't think it's not functioning, right? So now let's try and create a submit button. But before we do that, let me take you through. There's something we call radio buttons in HTML. We call it radio buttons. But there are some platform whereby, let me put something. Let me put a paragraph, and I say check if you are not a robot. Okay, good. So when you check some websites or some social media platforms, they will give a checkbox here that is for you to tick if you are not a robot. Those are what we call radio buttons. It's actually called checkbox, but there's one we call radio button. You input it in the type in the input box. So what we're going to do now is, let me do that for you. Let me quickly, under this form, let me teach you to use the checkbox and the radio button. So to do the checkbox, you say input. So here what you say is checkbox. Let me save this and refresh. You can see it's bringing a checkbox. It's bringing a checkbox, but it's not bringing anything. It's not displaying anything with the checkbox. Guys, it's not displaying maybe what we want the text box to display. So if you want it to display something, then under the checkbox you have to create a label. Yeah, you have to create a label under the checkbox. Let's say label. Let's verify. Okay, I am not a robot. Let's save this and refresh our page. So when you check it, it means you're not a robot. When you uncheck it, it means you're a robot. So I don't think you're getting me. Are you getting me? So that's how you make use of the checkbox in HTML. And okay, now let me show you how to make use of the radio button in HTML. And again, this checkbox, you can have 2, 3, or 4 checkboxes. You know, there are some platforms, maybe there are some this okay, let's say a quiz app. You're asked to select option A from option B, option C from option D. So what they do is just copy this, paste, control V. So when you want to distinguish them, you just put a break line. You put a break line. So now let's save and refresh. Can you see? I'm not a robot. I'm not. You can check all the boxes. So I'll show you, maybe in our coming classes. I'll show you how to code it, whereby when you click on a box, you can't click on the next one. That is, when you click on this one like this and you click on this, the first one will be unticking, then this one will be ticked. When you click on this one will untick and this one will tick. But that will be in our coming classes. That's what we are going to do in our coming. So let me delete this. Okay, not a robot. So let me just leave only one to be making use of it in our form. As I said today, we are talking about form. So now let me take you through how to make a radio button. A radio button. It's just the same thing. When for your label, just input radio, save and refresh. Sorry, my page is not refreshing. Coming. My page is not refreshing. So let me refresh again. It's not refreshing. Let me check something. Okay, I think it's for my code. So what happened? Let me see. Video. Let's give our input tag. Let's give it an ID. ID is to identify identity. Let's call it let's call it radio. Okay, so let's try refreshing. Then here we are calling the input label. We'll be calling the ID of the input label. So how do we call that? Instead of saying okay, yeah, we called it already. We said for radio, but I don't know why it's not, when I refresh, it's not displaying the uh okay, I don't know. Let me check radio. Oh, sorry, yeah, it's still checkbox. So that's how to debug in HTML in programming languages. So I don't think I need the ID. I don't want to teach you the ID yet actually. So that's why I did not make use of it in the first example. So as you can see, it gives a radio button. This is what we call radio button in HTML. So when you need like 3 or 4 radio buttons, the same thing you did before, just do this. Let's save this and refresh. You can see, but here it allows you to tick everything. It does not distinguish, maybe you can't take more than 2 options or maybe more than 1 option. Here it allows you to take all the options, and you can uncheck after you click on the radio button only if you refresh the page. So maybe in our coming classes we'll be talking about that, but for now let's just stick to the form we're doing. Just how to divert. Okay, good. So what we're doing next now is, how do we bring in. Now the form is not complete because, let me reduce this back. I only use it for an example, so I think it's too wide for me, the line spacing. So yeah, good. So now what we did, we create a form, but we haven't created the submit button yet, because every form is supposed to have a button. Maybe submit or login. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what we are going to do now. So still under the form, what we're going to be doing is, we are going to be creating a submit button. Still the same inputs, right? Input, but the type here will be submit. Sorry. So here will be submit. Okay. Then the value, maybe you want it to hold. Oh, okay, let me save this and show you something. You see, okay, it automatically brings submit. But if you want, maybe you want to change the value of this submit, you don't want it to be submit, because this is default, just like the default option. So let's say I don't want it to be submit, then I have to change the value. I'll input the value class. This is actually a class in HTML, so I'll just call it, let's say, I'll say login. So when I refresh, you can see it changed to login. So it is no more submit, it will change to login. So even if you want it to be create account, just come here, you see create account, and you refresh, you can see it brings create account. So let's just leave it as login. So these are actually ways to create a form in HTML using the form tag. So I think that's all for today. So I hope we meet in the next class, and don't forget to subscribe, like, comment and share. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.